Okay, hello. So, what's going on in the world? I wanted to talk to you about Benjamin Fulford's blog. This is Benjamin Fulford, April 22nd, 2013. 3 more major terrorist incidents threatened after Boston and Texas. A member of the Japanese Yakuza was contacted by a member of the cabal last week and told to inform the White Dragon Society that after Kennedy and Bush would come Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and one other. Since the Boston terror psyop included a bombing of the Kennedy Library and missile attack in Texas took place close to the Bush Ranch, the warning seems to be a hint that some major attacks linked to these two other presidents and one other were planned for the near future. Somebody has also placed a $1 billion bet on a major U.S. stock market plunge this week, in what may be a sign of foreknowledge of further major terrorist events, according to an MI5 source. There is also evidence of huge information war between two major factions in the U.S. over the bombing attacks in Texas and Boston. The Department of Homeland Security, SS Sabbatean Mafia faction staged the Boston attack in an attempt to create a psychological atmosphere favorable to martial law, while the opposition inside the agency clearly tried to sabotage this attack and make it clear to all this was government staged. In contrast, this increasing infighting and negative news in the U.S., there has been very good news coming out of Asia last week. A White Dragon Society representative returned from Beijing, where talks with the Chinese military leaders made it clear China was not going to be fooled into a war by any Sabbatean Israeli false flag attack in the area. In addition, on the subject of North Korea, it has been confirmed with talks with the South on reunification of the Korean Peninsula are proceeding well. Furthermore, concrete moves are afoot for the normalization of relations between Japan and North Korea. The Pentagon has also given the green light for reunification of the Korean Peninsula. There is a lot we have been asked not to report at this time in order to prevent sabotage to the negotiations by the Sabbatean agents. However, it will be a major news when it does come out. The Chinese military also said that even if they were forced to engage in military activity, they would not attempt to do anything big with their navy. Their navy is still so untrusted that during recent sea trials of their new aircraft carrier, most of the sailors got seasick. An admiral offered as an example of their unpreparedness. The cabal's attempts to ignite conflict in Korea and around the Senkaku Daiwa Islands have failed miserably, they said. The only result is the Gene Cohen from the Hotch Group, who was paying demonstrators in China 12,000 yuan a day to stage anti-Japanese protests, has been put on a blacklist. Lord James Sassoon is also no longer welcome in Japan for having incited the financial anti-Chinese psyops using Japanese puppets. Also, in a move related to efforts for peace, a major campaign is being waged against Goldman Sachs and their flunkies in South Korea, according to an executive at Japanese securities company. With Asia aiming for harmonious independence and Europe in a holding pattern of slowly sinking into financial quicksand, the focus of conflict is now in the U.S.-Israeli Sabbatean nexus and their Middle Eastern proxies, where it is clear a gigantic war for control is accelerating. The anti-Sabbatean forces in the Middle East are hoping to topple the Saudi regime in order to cut off the Sabbatean-controlled oil money. And I hope they do. Also, the 180 nations BRICS alliance is busy creating an alternative to OPEC in order to liberate the global financial system from dependence on the petrodollar. Personally, I'm hoping that it will be if they do this, if the BRICS do go along with this creating their own alternative to OPEC, it would be really awesome if they traded that in Bitcoin, which, by the way, the Bitcoin market is doing great. So Mike Adams, the health ranger over at Infowar, was quite wrong in deducing that the Bitcoin is dead. That's pretty much nonsense. I'd almost say he's a disinfo agent from what I heard him saying about how the Bitcoin was useless. But I don't think he is. I think he was just high off of his prediction high from predicting 24 hours that the Bitcoin would crash. Too bad he didn't have any Bitcoins and didn't sell them and made it some cash. But the idea that the Bitcoin is going away is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's saying, Mike Adams is saying that the Bitcoin is going to go away because it's not a stable currency. And that's true, it's not a stable currency yet. But the problem with that assessment is he's forgetting there's things like BitPay, where you can get, if you start a business using Bitcoins, you can get your Bitcoins turned into cash instantaneously. So continuing with Benjamin Fulford here. Rather, we need to realize the sabotage of the operation means very powerful groups within the intelligence military community are now fighting against the cabal by sabotaging their PSYOPs events like Sandy Hook and now Boston. The sending of letters containing poison rice into politicians, including Obama, is eerily similar to sending of anthrax letters after 9/11 and is probably also aimed at exposing the cabal. In addition to this, we have seen a huge downplaying by the Sabbatean cabal corporate media of what was clearly a missile attack in Texas very close to the Bush Ranch. There may have been intended to take out Bush military munitions dump, an MI5 source speculated. There is clearly more in the works. The phone call I received immediately after the attacks warning about future attacks links to Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton need to be taken seriously. The aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan was in Hong Kong when this warning was issued, and relevant parties were warned of the possible attack against it. An earthquake in California is another possibility, places associated with the Clintons including Georgetown University, Little Rock, Arkansas. What remains to be seen, though, is a Pentagon move into the Washington, D.C. cesspool of corruption. Clearly, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Justice Department have been implicated in the Boston terror attack against the American people. The Pentagon and agency White Hats say they have been waiting for the legal basis to make a move against the corrupt political establishment. However, with the U.S. legal system under the control of bribed and corrupt people at the highest level, it is clear the terrorist Sabbatean mafia is only going to be removed by men with guns. This may happen sooner rather than later. One U.S. source said Obama was negotiating with the Saudi government for refugee status if he is ousted. Now the great thing, I know that last part is true because in the Boston bombing we know that probably the guy who really did it, the Saudi, I'm almost sure this Saudi guy, because Saudi Arabia is like Illuminati wonderland. You go to Saudi Arabia, and all these Illuminati members get to have fake names, get to run around, be princes, Saudi princes, oil sheiks, whatever, torture people, you know, beat women, etc. And then when they come to America, they get to do the same thing because they have diplomatic immunity. It is such Illuminati bullshit. That country should just be nuked. Maybe. Nah, that's over the top, but you get what I'm saying. That country is a cesspool of corruption, and it is obvious that Obama is actually negotiating with this, because we see when he bows to the Saudi prince like he's some, you know, Saudi's bitch. Yeah, such a dishonorable coward President Obama has turned out to be. I can't believe I voted for him in 2008. I must have been, I was high on the hope and change propaganda bullshit. Oh, I said shit. Shit. Trying not to swear, so. The meditation, I'm going to read to you now Boston Marathon Meditation for Peace, a little bit of this from David Wilcock's blog. The meditation effect proves we can reduce war, terrorism, and violence by turning within. Now it is time for us to use this science to help the planet. A great meditation effect. In this 25-minute show, which only ended a half hour ago as I write this sentence, I described how 50 different scientific studies have confirmed the meditation effect is real. 7,000 people get together and meditate. Global terrorism goes down by 72%. This does not work the same way for the negative. I just got done telling Scout that this effect does not work for the same way for the negative. If 7,000 people thinking thoughts of fear, anger, and revenge had the same effect, we'd be in trouble. This is all heading towards a golden age. In the same radio show, I explained that over 30 ancient cultures had an encoded philosophy in their myths of a coming golden age. This was verified by Gregio de Centelliana and Hethra von Decken, two historians at the top of their game in the 1960s. They wrote an entire book on the subject entitled Hamlet's Mill and made a very elaborate and stunning case. I explained that every myth has the hero's journey story embedded in it as well. This is ultimately a blueprint of the universal mind, revealing how we move through cycles of renewal and spiritual awakening in our lives. The patterns we move through are called archetypes, and one of them is the dark night of the soul. At this point, it seemed that all is lost, and there is a strong whiff of death that cannot be ignored. But it is not the end. New solutions quickly followed after what seems like a point of no return. So we seem to be at the point of no return, and Benjamin Fulford is saying that this is a spiritual journey and that we are actually at the point where things are probably going to start getting better. Benjamin Fulford has been talking about this mass arrest scenario for a year or two now. You know, time speeding up, I can't remember if it's a year or 2 years. And I've been paying attention to him ever since then. And I gotta say that he is definitely more accurate than inaccurate. Although he was totally wrong about 2012, he was into the whole 2012 ascension philosophy, which has obviously turned out to be a bunch of junk science. The only thing that actually happened on 2012 that I would consider anything even remotely relevant to what happened is that on the December 21st, 2012, the Aeroscraft Company, if you've never heard of them, they're they're not really new, but they're a airship manufacturer, finished their prototype Aeroscraft, which does have revolutionary implications for logistics. It's a genuine airship. It can carry one that's the size of a football field, can carry about 20 tons of cargo. It's got vastly more volume, and it's also got a variable buoyancy system, unlike other hybrid airships, which are also revolutionary in their conception. So maybe the Mayans were right that 2012 did happen, and on the 21st of December, the hybrid airship Aeroscraft with its variable buoyancy system was completed, and that could be what 2012 was really all about, because if after 2012 if this airship stuff takes off, that would be the point. And airships have the potential to totally change the entire global economic directorate. Throw it up in the air and create a wonderful new society built on airships that deliver cargo anywhere in the world from anywhere else in the world, which would be great. They're also, 3 times more fuel efficient than an airplane, not just a helicopter, and they have VTOL. So there's all these wonderful, great things about these new airships that are coming out. But yeah, that's all I really want to talk about. That's all I want to talk about on the 2012 stuff. Other than that, he said David Wilcock said that we were going to, become superhumans on 2012, more or less, and that turned out to be a bunch of nonsense. So he has definitely not been a super reliable source, but some of the stuff he has been very reliable on, and it is now becoming apparent that this mass arrest scenario is real, with congressmen, both Republicans and Democrats, coming together to say that Clinton, Bush, and Obama are war criminals who committed torture and need to be arrested and tried for treason. Which is, then they had this Boston Massacre. But the Boston Massacre, which Benjamin Fulford was talking about there, hasn't gone really according to plan for the Illuminati, because Alex Jones has stolen the narrative, and completely. If we go to Google Trends, and just go to Google Trends, type in trends into Google, and type in Infowars, and if you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at, which I imagine you're looking at something, further in the future, obviously, what I'm looking at right now is that he has spiked. Infowars has spiked in the Google Trends search after the Boston Massacre, because it is so obvious that the Boston Massacre was an inside job. When 9/11 happened, people couldn't really believe it was part of the problem, and there wasn't any photographic evidence of an inside job other than what we could use with our heads. Clearly, Building 7 couldn't have been taken down by what the government said it was taken down, because no high-rise tower in human history has ever come down to fire damage, even when they're made out of crappy spiked steel that's spiked with lead or whatever. In China, they don't even come down. What happens is steel bends. And so the structure should have bent, but it never did. It just came down, free fall speed. Clearly some kind of demolition, controlled demolition. Whether it was with Tesla ray guns, which I'm honestly starting to think is more logical, that the US government just had Tesla death rays on satellites in orbit that microwave the buildings into oblivion, which is slightly more logical than the explosives placed in the building scenario. And that's clear, and the microwave scenario is clearly supported even by NIST's own 3D rendition of Building 7, where they're like, oh, this is how it collapsed. And it's like, wow, it collapsed. You could go and look at the thing online, and it collapses on the inside. And it's clearly, you could just take that, and there's basically, if there's a microwave being blasted from a satellite in orbit, it looks exactly like a microwave cannon hitting it right on the spot where it first initially collapses inwards, and then sucks the whole building down. So, but it was probably also controlled demolitions in the building, at least in Building 7 for sure, because the building fell into its own footprint, and I imagine that's something rather difficult to do with a death ray. Although I don't really know, because I don't really know much about death rays, because the government has never released Nikola Tesla's documents that they stole from him to the public, because they're a bunch of criminals. So that's a lot to cover. That's what's going on in the world. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to my channel, and if you and donate bitcoins to my Bitcoin address if you feel so inclined, and I will be more likely to produce future videos. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.